they've demonstrated that, yeah, whatever rabbi was in that temple was absolutely getting high on cannabis. Now, the other thing to say about that... Hello, my friends, it's Tom Hatsis, and this is Ancient Psychedelia. This clip comes from a larger interview that I did with Mark Wooding. You'll probably know Mark as the genius behind those awesome After School videos that you'll catch on YouTube, and if you haven't checked them out, definitely check out After School. It's great stuff. In this clip, Mark and I discuss what we can and cannot know about ancient uses of plant medicines. If you're into this kind of content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and find me on Instagram at tom.hatsis. With all that out of the way, I hope you enjoy it.
Chemistry, or where people go into these ancient sites and they test things, almost like a CSI scene, like our common friend Brian Morescu.
Yes, yeah.
Looking for the mystery at Eleusis. All this new modern ways of testing things has revealed a new story to us. So do you incorporate kind of like the chemistry, the biology, like these new forensic things into your...
I'm going to when I start writing, so back when I was writing my books, this stuff wasn't as prominent, but now as it's becoming more prominent, I totally will. Or I should say, in my most recent book, I cite Brian and when he's talking about the ergot that was potentially used at Catalonia. I'm on his side with that. I think the evidence is pretty solid for ergot use. We also have the Temple of Arad, where the archaeochemists scraped. There were these two incense pillars. One of them tested positive for frankincense. The other one tested positive for cannabis. So,
was this the Oracle of Delphi?
No, the Oracle of Delphi was another thing.
Okay.
That's a Greek thing. This is an ancient Hebraic thing.
Okay.
And
I've never heard of it.
Oh, yeah. Brian writes about it. I think it's in the concluding chapter. He sort of makes mention of the Temple of Arad where, the archaeochemists, really, they've demonstrated that, whatever rabbi was in that temple was absolutely getting high on cannabis. Now, the other thing to say about that is that person might have also been getting high on frankincense. The kind of frankincense that we know today that you'll smell in a church, that existed in the ancient world, but there were also other kinds of frankincense that had psychoactive effects. They were maybe over harvested or went extinct in some way, but we know that they existed from ancient sources, like I believe Virgil and Galen both write about frankincense, that, these women or these priestesses, they'd inhale this frankincense and they'd go into this religious frenzy. And it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe the guys in Arad, they were mixing the cannabis with the frankincense, and damn, would I want to try that.
That's amazing, because there's so many things that alter our consciousness. Yeah. Like anything can. You could pinch yourself for 5 minutes and your consciousness would be different. Yeah. One way that I like to joke about is how I alter my consciousness is whenever I go to a really hot, humid place, I get a bowl of hot, spicy soup. And I just that experience of sweating and eating hot, spicy soup in a hot, tropical place. It cleanses you and it makes you kind of feel high. I don't know why.
I'm sure.
But, it's not a conventional mind-altering experience that you'd think of, but to me, I'm like, this is changing my consciousness for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So looking at history, it's really how hard is it to even know what we're taking if you don't have that forensic evidence?
It's really difficult. For a variety of reasons. One of those reasons is that in some cases you'll have ancient writers talking about substances in ways that we would call psychedelic and calling it this name that we've never heard of. So Pliny writes of gelotophyllis. He says that the Persian magi use gelotophyllis. It puts them in this otherworldly state like a prophecy. Do you know what gelotophyllis is? I have no idea what that is.
No.
We have other sources where the author will talk about something that we do know about, but we don't know about any psychedelic varieties. So an example would be Plutarch writes about this kind of ivy that the Maenads, who are the priestesses of Dionysus, they would somehow eat or whatever, absorb this ivy, ingest this ivy somehow, and they would have religious experiences with it. Plutarch uses the word enthusiasmos. We get the word entheogen from enthusiasmos. Wow. He's clearly describing, when you read the passage, he is clearly describing a psychedelic experience. He even says that it makes them drunk, but they're not drinking wine. But we don't know of any ivy today that will cause an entheogenic experience. So again, it's like, what was Plutarch talking about? Then we have other things like, what was his name? Polyaenus writes about Asterion, that the priestesses of Hera used. Now we didn't know what Asterion was, except for it was either Galen or Dioscorus in one of their medical works actually says, and some Greeks call cannabis Asterion. So now we actually know that they were using cannabis, but without that later so saying, I'm going to clear this up, we would have no idea what Asterion was, but we now know that it was cannabis.
That's so awesome. And this reminds me of Brian's book about how the ancients would call this Kukion beer.
Yeah.
But that beer could be very different from what we think of as beer today.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would even go as far as to say it was most probably very different from the kind of beer we have today.
And why was that?
Because, they didn't have modern method. Let's see. First, like all of our beer has to grant FDA approval. They didn't have that in the ancient world. So people would just make these really, strong beers, and then they would throw all these plant matter into it as well. So, as just one example, today, we have a Pilsner, right? A Pilsner crowd. Pilsner is the German word for henbane. Henbane is a highly psychoactive solanaceous plant that medieval wise women would put in their witches' ointments to have these otherworldly experiences. So we don't put henbane in the Pilsner anymore, but we retained the name of a Pilsner from back when it used to have henbane in it.
That's really cool. Just studying the etymology, is that what it's called, of words? You can
exactly.
Kind of do your forensics that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another way to do the sort of forensic investigations through linguistics and etymology.
Awesome.
Yeah.